computer. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to IGEL Weekly, episode 85, September 28th, 2023. With me, as always, is kind of my partner in crime, Mr. Seb, all the way from, looks like sunny Germany this afternoon. Seb, I got a serious question before we get going. How is it almost October? Where did the year go?
To be honest, we met last time in Nashville, and it seems like it was, I don't know, 1 or 2 months ago.
I know. But
yeah.
Well, I have a teenager. She's kind of over the whole Santa Claus thing. But my youngest guy is right on the cusp there, and so now we're thinking about. He's 11, so we're thinking, with Christmas in sight, do we have that conversation, or do we let him come to us? It's kind of this awkward thing, and of course the weather's changing, so feeling more and more like Christmas season, especially over here in Canada. We're kind of not quite ready for snow, but it's on the way.
Yeah, I must say we are far away at the moment. We still have 23, 26 degrees Celsius. So I always have to do some math on Fahrenheit. So give me a second, I have to convert it.
Oh, no, I'm a Celsius guy too. So right.
You have the metric system. Yes, thank you, Canada.
So let's let our American friends do the calculations. I'm in our Canadian head office this week, and driving to the airport on Tuesday morning. I had to catch a 6 o'clock flight, so I left my house at 4:30, and for the first time all season, had to do some scraping of the frost, and I was like, "Oh, it's begun."
But you asked what the year went. You don't have to speak about the whole year. I'm asking myself every Friday where the whole week went.
I know things are bananas.
Today is Thursday. And if you ask me what I did on Monday or Tuesday, I have no clue. I would have to look at my calendar.
Yeah,
it's just crazy.
In the same vein, ask me what I had for breakfast. I don't know, because that was so long ago. These early mornings, late evenings, good problems to have.
Yep.
So anyway, so things are good with you. I know we've kind of taken hiatus from the community edition of the podcast for I'm guessing it's been a couple of months. So now that the summer PTO season is over, our schedules are, I won't say they're calming down, but they're more manageable than they once were during the summer period. So, we'll get back into a regular cadence of these podcasts. It looks like we're going to try and stick with the every 2 weeks, every Thursday, every second Thursday, every second Friday, depending on what works for you and I and our various schedules. So that's just a bit of an update for the listeners that we're back. It hasn't been forgotten. It was just a victim of our schedules. That's all. So anyway, we're back.
You said months. It was, I would say, not more than 1 month last time we met.
No,
but don't trust too much in my time frame experience. So not sure, but I think it was somewhere at mid of August when we met the last time. So I mean, it's a long time, right? And I did miss you already a long time. But I wouldn't think it was months.
You know what? I just looked it up, and June 23rd. So
Seriously? Okay, well.
So that just reinforces our point about where did the year go?
Wow. Okay.
Okay. So let's get away from calendars and let's get away from that. There's been some changes at IGEL. Jed, who came on, I guess, probably 6-7 years ago, has now left the company and moved on to other pastures. So why don't you tell us about, there's some new leadership coming in or is already in place, and maybe you tell us about, what you know about, necessarily, I don't care about the details of why he left and why we have a new guy. I'm just more interested in about the change from an insider perspective, using air quotes here.
Sure. I mean, I have to say quite politically correct, right? I want to keep my job, so I will make it politically correct for everyone who's listening. Now, but kidding aside, yes, we had a huge change. I mean, it wasn't, I would call it a big surprise, because we already had some informations prior to that decision. But we were surprised that Klaus Ostermann came in. I must say I didn't know him, but I had a long talk with Douglas Browne. I mean, all our listeners are knowing Doug for longer than I do, I guess. And he told me great stories about him at Citrix and what they did together, but also what Klaus did at Citrix. So I wasn't really scared about the decision. It was more kind of, okay, let's see what they will be able to move on. Because, I mean, let's stay honest, every person who is joining a new company is bringing also a little bit of backgrounds, bringing also colleagues he likes to work with. And that's what we are seeing at the moment. We have a lot of new faces at IGEL. And I must say, I didn't meet everyone, just met a couple of them. I had the joy to meet Klaus, not personally, but in Zoom. Oh, no, hold on. I met him one time in Augsburg. but we didn't have the chance to talk. But we had a great talk a couple of weeks ago regarding community, and he is definitely dedicated to our cause, and that's something which makes me smile, to be honest, because that's obviously my daily job, besides having the technical publication. And no, he is really structured. I mean, not saying Jet wasn't, not at all, but they couldn't be more different, both of
Right.
them, right? Maybe emotional and marketing driven, bringing this power into this North German quite discrete company that was Jet, and now having Klaus, which brings a lot of background in terms of enterprise, of big projects, and that's something which is just different. I wouldn't say better or less good. It's just different,
Right.
and we are seeing a lot of changes already at the moment. And to be fair, Klaus is not doing only, which is already a lot, the CEO job. He's also doing partially a CMO job, which is I know
Wow.
Jet did that also in former times. That's a huge one.
Oh wow! So the reason I'm bringing this up because I kind of want us to poke at what's Klaus's interest in community, and I'm glad to hear you say that
Yeah,
he's still very very interested in the community, and IGEL will still be investing in the community. So that's kind of music to both
yeah.
in you and I, because we kind of live and breathe IGEL community in kind of you from the IGEL side, me from the other side of the fence. So that's extremely encouraging. I
But
just
that's a
like
good. I mean, glad you brought that up, Barry, just for a second. I just wrote, I mean, it's just a pure coincidence, right? I'm not writing Klaus a mail every day, not at all. So, coincidence, I just wrote him a mail 10 minutes ago, 15 minutes ago, writing about a new process regarding the Agile community. So, if you like, I can give you at the end of our podcast a short teaser about what we are working on at the moment and where Klaus asked me for feedback.
yeah, I'm adding that to my notes right now so I don't forget. Just out of curiosity, with the name like Klaus, I'm guessing he's based in Germany, or maybe
No,
he's not. Okay.
interestingly, no. He's Danish. So if you see
Okay.
Germany, and then you have a small part which is upside of Germany, that's Denmark, and that's where he is coming from. Even if
Ah,
his name is sounding extremely German, that's right. I
ah,
thought the same at the beginning.
wow. Okay. So that's maybe my misconception. Okay. So he's
Oh, good.
very
We all
interesting.
thought that.
Yeah. So just before we kind of hit the record button on this, you and I were kind of talking pretty casually, and you said not only is there a change in leadership at the very, very top of IGEL, but there's also some change in terms of who's responsible for the community aspect of within IGEL.
Yeah,
And I know we at Disrupt in Nashville, you and I had a good podcast with Irfan, who kind of was a real champion for
correct.
the community. But I understand he's not
Yeah.
necessarily in as much as involved as he once was. So maybe you can talk a bit about the change there.
Oh, definitely. I mean, not everyone is knowing that, so that's the reason why it's good that we talk about this. The community changed the department a couple of times in the last 5 or 4, yeah, let's say near to 6 years. We were part of customer experience at the beginning, then marketing. We're also part of the IPG group, which is basically the group which is holding all the dev guys, all the product management guys. And at the end, guess what? We came back to customer experience. Why? Because it just fits perfectly, right? The people who are helping in the community are members like you, Barry, like all the insiders, our customers, our distributors and partners. But we also have IGEL employees helping in the community. And who could better help in the community than customer experience guys? So advanced services, support, and all that departments. So that's the reason why you're also seeing an increase of people helping. Not saying Priest is not helping, right? Don't get me wrong. They're helping a lot also. But in that case, I would say as the community is less sales driven, and that's a good thing, we're more customer experience driven. And that's where we were happy to move to our funds department, let's say go back to the source. And it was, let me think back. It was in August last year, if I remember right. And that's where the change was happening. So we had a couple of discussions, and I must say it was definitely a great decision. It made a lot of sense, and we have a great cooperation with our support and advanced services leader in EMEA, but also in the US. And that's where the community is really taking the next level.
Yeah, it's funny. I kind of organically noticed that. So, a community member would ask a relatively high level question, and all of a sudden there'd be almost like a feeding frenzy of really technical answers to, what may be a kind of a not necessarily a super technical question. So that's super encouraging to hear that there's real
Yeah,
investment from advanced services and the other various technical teams within IGEL to be involved more
correct.
in the in the community. And me thinking as a manager, that's that kind of drive down support costs if they're getting help directly in the community, right? So it's I get it, I get it.
Yeah, I mean, and the goal is obviously, I mean, we have our advanced services, we have our priority support that we're trying to set. Don't get me wrong, that topic will stay because the community is not an alternative to support. But what we are trying to do is, hey, questions like, I never did this, how can I do this? Is something that doesn't have to end at support, to be honest, because
Right.
they're more focused on break and fix, not only, but mostly. And if your whole system is down because of an update, obviously you can ask in the community, but the support is the department you have to ask, because they can really provide fully supported answers and can maybe also give some remote assistance depending on your SLAs. That's something that the community we're not able to do, right? And that's where I'm saying it's really complementary. So we have also a feedback loop back into the department. That's extremely helpful.
Yeah, if your environment's down and you're going to the community, you're doing something wrong.
Not necessarily wrong, but at least we can try on the best effort base, right? And that's where we are seeing it. But if the environment is going down due to our help, well, it was a best effort thing, right? So support is something different. It's definitely supported
and the community is, we are global, but a lot of the, not everyone's online all the time for helping people. So that's why it's kind of a point in time. It's not a real time feedback loop where you get on the phone with an IGEL support engineer and he's actually saying, click here, problem solved.
Yeah, exactly. You nailed it.
Right. Another thing that I've noticed, kind of changing gears a little bit, is in the last little while, when I say last little while, I'm talking 2-3 weeks, maybe. There's been a lot of community, a lot of talk in the community about REST API. Let's bring it back from its 6 foot under spot, and let's see what we can do to begin implementing more automations into the IGEL ecosystem. So maybe you can talk about what you're seeing in the community in terms of an ask and what your response is.
That's a fantastic question, to be honest, Barry. I mean, we had the discussion already a long, long time ago. We had also a discussion in Insiders. We have also Falk Highland, which is delivering the PSIGEL framework around our API. But we all know that the API at IGEL is quite limited at the moment, right? And I mean, it's good, but it's far away from being perfect. Perfect, in my opinion, would be if you could manage your devices completely without having to open any consoles. And that's something that you can't do for the moment, right? You can reboot devices quite easily. You can move devices from a folder to another folder. But what about changing a value in a profile, in a configuration? What about using the REST API with OS 12 and UMS 12 and the new feature sets? I'm thinking also about webhooks and event integrations or historical data and reporting. Right, that's feature set that we asked a lot of times already to get integrated. But yeah, that's a year. Do you say that in the US and Canada, chicken egg issue? So
yes. Cart before the horse, chicken and egg.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why we are at the moment, right? Because we are talking, I mean, our product manager is extremely open-minded and listens also a lot to the Agile community. But they would have to invest a lot of time, a lot of money also to make that product being good. And they ask for revenue. And that's something which is difficult because, well, if you don't have the product, you can't really sell it. And if you have no one who is wanting to use it because it's lacking features, yeah, win the situation for the moment. And that's where I'm glad that you brought that topic up. I have a great discussion. I mean, I don't want to make publicity in the podcast, but I have great discussions with XOAP, which is a DevOps company, which are really good contacts too.
Sorry, what was the company? What did you say it was called?
XOAP, XOAP.
Okay.
Not sure if they're well known in the US. So I'm just saying I met them at the E2E, which is an extremely technical conference, which is happening again in November here in Europe. And basically, everything that you want to do in a DevOps is to automate things, and that's something which we are not able to do at the moment with our IMI. So my big ask is to you, Barry, but also to XenTegra, but also to our listeners. Please support me. If you have features that you would like to see in the IMI, please shout me a DM, write me something, and I'm happy to forward it then to our product manager. Because for the moment, I have a PowerPoint created where I have stuff included that I would like to see, and I can go through in a couple of seconds if you like, Barry, and just exchange a little bit with you how you view is on that topic.
Well, there's probably enough meat on that particular bone to have a whole episode about that. Because that's near and dear to my heart. Is I'm all about
You're right.
The less clicking and moving my mouse I have to do, the better.
Yeah.
Automation is key to any kind of scale. And if you're putting in IGEL as a platform, you're probably not doing it for 3 devices. You're probably doing it for several hundred, if not several thousand. And granted, it is easy to manage in the UMS, but if you can automate it, it's even easier, right?
That's exactly correct.
You said something interesting though in your comments there. You said you said the guy's name very, very fast. The PS modules that are available.
Falk Highland, exactly. Yeah.
Can you speak a bit about that? Because I'm not super familiar with what's available for the IGEL ecosystem in terms of PowerShell.
Sure. So what Falk did is, and it's already available since I would say the beginning of the IGEL community, maybe earlier. I would have to double check his GitHub page. But Falk built a complete framework around our AMI. So obviously you have to have the AMI activated to use the PSIGEL framework, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it isn't the same. The REST API is only the way how to send these commands. And what he did is amazing. You just have to use his. I would put the link in the chat so you can maybe add it to the discussion. But the PSIGEL is something, the PowerShell module, which is a complete framework around it. So I would have to double check. But I mean, going through a simple thing. We had the discussion, I don't know, 2 days ago, 3 days ago. How can I change attributes for my IGEL devices in my UMS, like the IP address? I said, okay, basically you could export all devices in a CSV, change the values in CSV, and re-import all that stuff into the UMS by using system import and import devices as CSV, which, to be honest, isn't pretty handy, right?
Right.
And I said, but hold on, Falk wrote a cool framework, which is PSIGEL, and there you can change such values by using the framework. And I will just give the link, which is the IGEL community GitHub, and then PSIGEL. Barry, I will give it to you in a second.
Yeah, I can put it in the post.
That's something, definitely. I mean, it's huge, right? And I know some people might be scared because, I mean, not everyone is used to using a REST API. Not everyone is used to use a keyboard to do things instead of a mouse. But believe me, it's definitely worth to check it out because it's easy to use. It's better documented than our own API usage, I must stay honest. And he did an amazing job there.
Yeah, and just kind of a pro tip from a guy who used to, manage IGEL in the trenches. If you're going to start testing and validating the PSIGEL, do it in a lab. Don't do it in production. I may or may not have
definitely a great advice.
I may or may not have made a mistake in production, but lesson learned, right? Lesson learned. That's why I have a couple of gray hairs.
We all went through that route. And believe me, when it happens on the customer side, I did the same. There is this specific moment where you don't know what to say. You're just sitting in front of your screen and you're thinking of committing suicide, making the fire alarm happening, something. But
sometimes those are referred to as RGEs, resume generating events. So you got to write your resume.
I agree. But yeah. That's what we are at the moment.
Okay, so PSIGEL is not on par with what's you're thinking about for the REST API. As part of the release of version 12, there was no advancements in the API as available today.
Exactly, and that's something which hurts me a lot. And I mean, I asked our highest technical person at IGEL, which is Matthias Haas, our CTO, and he said, well, we can invest time in that part of our product if we find a use case, if we find customers who want it. And that's something where we are at the moment in the discussion. So please give me background, give me support in saying we need it because we want to achieve this specific use case. And then we can go through, because I'm thinking also about all the reporting stuff. I mean, you can do a lot already in the UMS. So you can export your data from views in a CSV and import it somewhere else. That's a no-brainer. That's an easy one. But at the same time, wouldn't it be easier to query them directly from an IMI? And not only the actual state, that's something that you can already do today, but for the history, checking for hardware changes, checking for IP changes. And that's something that you have to do at the moment manually by checking CSV files or importing and making then comparison in your database. Honestly, that doesn't have to happen. We have a great database. Why not using the IMI to query them?
Right.
And I mean, there was a lot of things going around this, right? What we don't have at the moment is an integration for external systems, like SIEM servers,
Right.
getting log files, etc. Would be an easy one. Make that available for the IMI, and then we don't have to think about any integrations.
I vote for the log file. Admittedly, extracting
great.
log files from both UMS is relatively easy, but extracting logs files from an endpoint can be a little bit tricky if you're not super technical. And let me ask you a question: is there a REST API channel in the community?
No, there isn't. There is a community code which is going into a little bit in the direction, because that's where usually code-driven questions are asked. But we don't have one. We can definitely experience this if we see a need. Why not? I mean, because they're mostly not related to UMS nor the IGEL platform. So why not? Yeah, good idea.
Okay, I'm just thinking out loud. But if the community code ones exist, maybe we just keep it as is for now until we get some real momentum around. Building out the ideas of what we would like to see in a version 2.0 of the API, if that makes sense.
Right. Definitely.
Okay.
I mean, we can have a discussion if you want on the. I mean, we can fill maybe 1 hour on that topic. So it's definitely a huge one. But I'm glad that you are seeing the same need on your market, on your end. And again, just give me support. Help me on bringing that product back on track.
Yeah, I have a number of ideas because, obviously I'm on the partner side and I deal with, a dozen, 15 environments at any given time. And if I can figure out ways to automate, the daily, well, not necessarily daily for me, but tasks that I need to do at each customer site, I'll be a lot happier man at 10:30 a.m. on a Thursday.
Yeah, and think about all the people like you, like our listeners who have labs at home, right? And how many times is the lab crashing for whatever reason, and you have to repeat everything from scratch? Wouldn't that be easier to just push a button and everything is set up automatically? I mean, that's the way I like IT, right? To have something automated and not doing click, 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 and then copy, paste, and then import, export. Just having an API and a build script is something that I'm really looking for.
Yeah. So I think, we should plan for a separate session, deep dive into, I don't know if we do it via webinar or something, Seb, so we can bring some people in instead maybe and record it and release it as a podcast.
Oh, definitely.
That'd be a great idea. So I think instead of just you and I being the only ones who can, discuss, API, there's much smarter people than you and I in the community who will certainly have some valid questions.
One thing that came to my mind, because you'd mentioned it, and that's a good heads up. We had a session with Falk, a community meetup. So I will also share the link with you. So if someone is interested in getting their hands dirty and using the PSIGEL platform, I will send the meetup right away to Barry, because that was a really awesome session where Falk showed really in details how he is working, but also how to set up the PSIGEL environment.
Oh, that'd be awesome if we can get that. And what we can do is, we'll say, anyone who wants to join our session, here's your homework. Go watch this one first. you have your prerequisites before you can come to API 2.0.
Perfect. It's on the way to you. Just send it over via chat.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Let's talk a bit about the actual community and the growth of the community. Is it still on that kind of crazy hockey stick growth? Since we've last spoken, or even the last 2-3 quarters, it's still growing as expected. You're happy with the trajectory, I guess, and the interaction within the community, which is more important than just growth. I would assume.
That's a good question again. So it depends from the angle that you're taking for your hockey cross.
Hockey stick, Seb. Hockey stick.
Hockey stick.
Canadian. Don't mess with our hockey.
sorry, my bad. And to be honest, it's okay. always could be better, but we are growing quite generically. So we can speak about numbers. We have about 18 to 20% growth every month.
Wow.
Compared to the same period last year. So you have an average, let me double check the actual report, but in general, it's about 8 new members per day in average for this year, which is already 2 persons more than the year before. So I can't complain. My goal would have been to get way more than that, but hey, you can't force it, right? I mean, people come to the community or not, and you can just share the love, share the information, being on site, and that's something which is also at the moment quite difficult sometimes, is to get to being on site on all the events. So I'm traveling next week to a healthcare event in Sweden. I was in a Swiss event last week. We are planning also to attend some Citrix user groups in Norway, or in general in the Nordics. So yeah, at the moment, to answer your question, it's good. And I'm happy with it, but I mean, better is always to have even more, right?
So as a follow-up question to that, thinking back to the podcast we did in Nashville, we did talk about you guys were developing. I forget what you guys were calling, but the IGEL user group, for lack of a better word, where you guys would do kind of the IGEL roadshow. I don't know what that looks like, and if that where it may have evolved as part of the leadership changes within IGEL. So maybe you can speak about: is it still a thing, or is it it's on hold?
Next. At the moment, it's no good. We can speak about this. I'm glad you brought that up. At the moment, it's on hold. To be clear, it's still on the plan. But I mean, we are on a podcast just between you and me, so no one else is listening, so everything is fine. No, just kidding. We have also discussions regarding Disrupt. I'm not sure if we discussed it already with you, Barry, or it was another discussion, but we are thinking about, hey, how will the Disrupt 2024 looking like? And obviously, we have changes. We have changed in our marketing. We have changed in our organization. The question is, hey, do we need two big events? Is one big event enough? And then maybe have roadshows around it. And that's the reason why, for the moment, the Agile user groups, and yes, that's what they should have been called until end of the year. At the moment, it's on hold.
Okay.
But it's definitely not forgotten.
Understood. Okay. We're kind of running low on time here, Seb, but so you did say you may have a bit of a teaser for us at the end of the podcast.
Yeah.
Let's hear it, because I'm sitting at the edge of my seat here, drinking my empty cup of coffee now.
Okay, so we had a talk with Klaus 3 weeks ago, and he asked, hey, how are we informing people inside of the community? I said, yeah, we have different ways. We have emails, we have announcements, we have channels where we are sharing information. And he said, yeah, okay, well, that's good, but not enough. So how could we have interest groups, like I would call it security, maybe Citrix or whatever, the topics can be defined quite freely, and having then information pushed to the user. So they're not obliged to consume them in a channel, which I agree is sometimes a little bit annoying, because you have a lot of announcements, you have a lot of different posts, and you're not sure, does it belong to me? Another example is, hey, we have an event happening in Germany regarding Behörden Roundtable. Doesn't belong to anyway to Canadians or US users, right? So yeah, it's good to have it posted, but I would say then more or less 65% of our users would not be interested. So how could we push that information to users? And I did a lot of research in the last weeks. I mean, first of all, we have to gather the data. So we have to ask you as a member, hey, which are your point of interest? That's quite easy. We can make that during the registration form, but we can also send out Slack workflows, which is a cool thing, by the way. Mm-hmm. From there, we have the data, and now we need another way how to get that data. As soon as we push something, push them to the corresponding groups, and how to handle all that information. That's something where I'm working on with the Slack API. We're coming back to the topic API. That's the reason why I brought it up. Guess what? The Slack API is an amazing product, and you can really do a lot of things there. I mean, and the idea is to have, okay, Barry Browne is joining the community, he's registering and saying, I'm interested in Citrix. From there, a specific workflow would put that into a spreadsheet, and this spreadsheet would then be read by the API, and Barry Browne will be added to a group which is called Citrix. Done. Process is ended. And now we have someone from marketing who is saying, hey, big Citrix event, IGEL is joining in Toronto. Please, everyone within the region, be there. Bam. This message will go only to the people, or additionally, to the people interested in Citrix. And we'll do the same, or no, we will not. At the moment, we are thinking about doing the same about regional stuff. Because, like I said, Barry, I'm not sure, but I would say you're not really interested in German events happening somewhere in
except for disrupt
to Munich. Exactly. So, well, that's the next thing. Why not doing the same for Canada or North America, maybe, and saying, okay, hey guys, that's a direct notification. And what I didn't mention, I'm also working on the workflow to having people unsubscribing, because your interest may change and you might not be interested in Citrix anymore, but more in VMware or AVD. That's something that I'm also working in a workflow. So just a small teaser, right? But if you have any ideas regarding interest-based notifications, please give me a shout. I'm happy to hear everything you have to say.
Yeah, and just a bit of a follow-up on that, for getting the feedback loop, if you send Seb a DM on Slack, if it's within, the German working hours and even beyond working hours, sometimes you get a response within minutes. I think, Seb, you need to step away from your keyboard a little bit sometimes because your responses are too quick.
I'm trying to.
Okay, well, let's wrap things up. But I just thought of a non-IGEL, non-community, non-technology question.
Yes, I would marry you.
I'm flattered. Oktoberfest, is that a huge thing in Germany?
How should I call it without being unpolite to our Bavarian German neighbors? So it's a big thing in the south of Germany, especially if you live in Bavaria.
But is it like a holiday, or is it just a weekend? Or
no? It's more like a fair where you drink a lot of beer, where you have a roller coasters, music. But to be fair, ask someone from North Germany; he will not attend. Oktoberfest usually. But I mean, it also because the music is extremely pretty, extreme German, right? It's not really rock and roll or metal or electro. Right. It's more really this, humpapa music. And how should I call it? I'm not a big adapter. But I'm coming from France, so I guess I'm not the right person to ask. But for the rest of Germany, what happens quite regularly is that, depending on where you live, there is a local Oktoberfest beer, which doesn't belong in any way to the official one, but where you get Bavarian beer and people are wearing this leather trousers. But it's huge in the south of Germany, especially in the Bavarian region.
Okay.
But it's not that much popular in the rest of Germany, at least. From my friendhood, right? So I'm just being
the only reason I ask is because I mentioned I'm in Toronto this weekend. I guess further east of Toronto, I think is right. There's Kitchener-Waterloo, and there's a big German contingency there, and there's a huge Oktoberfest there every year. And in my younger days in university, we used to go down like clockwork every year, and it was always so much fun. So I just thought maybe it was this kind of the same thing in your neck of the woods, but I guess it's more down south. So
yeah, I would say so, at least from my friendship, my friendhood.
Right. Okay. And on that fantastic note, talking about Oktoberfest, let's call this a podcast, Seb. Number 85 done. 14 to get to that big 100. We got to start planning some kind of a monster podcast. Maybe we'll get Andy and Chris and all the folks from the.
Oh yeah, with pleasure.
Yeah, we'll get the gang together. We'll get maybe we'll have some Bavarian beer, some Steins of beer to celebrate 100. Because that's something it won't go take long. Let me think about this. If we do 2 a month, 4 a month. Oh yeah, it's not going to take us very long to get there. Maybe it'll be it's going to happen sooner rather than later. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, Seb, let's call that a podcast. All the best, my friend, and have yourself a good 2 weeks. And we'll talk again in October. Closer to Oktoberfest.
With pleasure.
All right. Thanks so much.
See you.
Right, bye-bye.